Joe Rogan, he made a statement recently about Meghan Markle. Basically, he was explaining to us and to Meghan Markle especially that, you know what, Meghan, it is time for you to stop to bail yourself. The reason for that is very, very simple. Joe Rogan believes, to me, what it looks like, that Meghan Markle is a complete disaster. The podcast had been a disaster. Now, the main reason a lot of people talk about podcast, they tune into this program or different podcasts is because of Joe Rogan. People like me, I would admit, uh, have come to know about this whole thing, Spotify podcast. It was really a new thing. Nobody knew about this. The only way or the main reason why we are tuning into this podcast, Spotify, is because of Joe Rogan. What he says, he brings in new ideas, discussions, and whatnot, and so many people are attaching themselves with Joe Rogan, with Spotify, and there is no really big difference between Joe Rogan and Spotify. Spotify means Joe Rogan means Spotify. Now it looks like that since Meghan Markle came to Spotify doing her podcast, all of this stupid nonsense stuff that she is throwing out, looks like a lot of people are very, very upset. And Spotify may have realized that, you know what, we are going to be actually losing our customers because of Megan. Since she started this podcast, we have also reported in this channel, since she started this podcast, Spotify's their stock plunged. They had this quarter where they posted loss for the whole company. Thanks to Meghan Markle and people like her who do not really bring money to Spotify. Let's take a listen at this video, or actually this report, because this report is very interesting. Joe Rogan slams Meghan Markle, suggests Prince Harry's wife might bail on Spotify. And the reason is obvious, which is that Joe Rogan doesn't want the reputation of Spotify to be tarnished, especially by people like Meghan Markle. And so he's hitting at Meghan. He's speaking out about it and he's telling that you need to just shut your mouth and go somewhere else. Joe Rogan sent a jab to Meghan Markle on a recent episode of his podcast, The Joe Rogan Experience. He said that not all celebrities are like him. Most of them can't keep up. They bail, like Meghan Markle. Obviously, he's alluding to the fact that Meghan Markle might try to be like him, or even, come out in public and say, "Oh, I beat Joe Rogan." We have seen her podcast was actually on top for a day or two. Some people, they say Spotify pushed her podcast to number one spot, but nevertheless, it was there for a day. Maybe Joe Rogan didn't like it, and he's like, these freebies, they need to go. In the 3-hour episode of the Joe Rogan Experience, the host and his guest, Neil Brennan, spoke on numerous different topics. Both comedians and podcasters found much mutual ground for conversation. Along the way, they somehow got to speak about podcasting and how celebrities join their profession not knowing what they are getting into. Well, I don't consider Meghan Markle to be a celebrity at all. She is just a skillless, talentless, homeless, all kind of less person who doesn't really bring any value on the table. But Joe Rogan, he was polite enough to call Meghan as a celebrity, and obviously, at the same time, he is mocking at her. He's throwing her under the bus, like trash talking about Meghan Markle. Joe Rogan slams Meghan Markle, suggests she might bail on Spotify. Joe Rogan believes that in order to be successful in the podcasting business, first and foremost, you need to be real. Oh my God. Did he just say Meghan is not real? Wow, that is insane. Well, this is true, right? This is exactly what it is. She is not real. Even though the beginning of the starting of this podcast, if you remember, she said, "Oh, you get to see the real me interaction, the victim me, not real me like the victim me." Now, Joe Rogan is exposing her, saying that no, all the way you were not real. To not be afraid to present your true self to your audience, People widely criticize the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle, for being quite the opposite of this. Yeah, the internet blames her for constantly hiding behind a person that does not represent her true self. And that person is who? The victim, Meghan. Every single episode, every single show, podcast, the same thing is being repeated. I'm the victim. I'm the victim. Listen to my podcast. The podcast that Meghan Markle created aired in August despite the deal being signed about a year and a half before this. According to Spotify, the podcast is not doing badly at the moment. It is on the list of the top podcasts for quite a long time. Basically, since its airing, the only reason why Spotify is saying good things about, or they will be saying good things about Meghan Markle, is because it is a complete disaster. They do not have to come out and try to give us this impression that Spotify is a big company, is gaining a lot of active users, or this is happening, that is happening. Just take a look at the data. If you go to Spotify, the revenue, the cost, you will know that they are in big trouble. And in the coming days, more and more people are going to unsubscribe. The podcast Megan created August, despite the deal being signed about a year half and a half. Yeah, because she didn't really have anything to say. So eventually she came up with, oh, I am the victim. Let's talk about this. Maybe I'll get some people listening to me. Joe Rogan argued that to reach success, listeners must get a sense of what the host is like. Listeners are able to tell this after a while, quote unquote, and decide whether someone is worth listening to. And for Meghan Markle, from any measurement, from any angle, whichever way you look at her podcast, she is a complete disaster, and she is not presenting her true self. Her true self would be, I googled the prince, I was going through depression, I was desperate, I needed somebody to lean on to, my career was over in Hollywood, and so I googled Harry. I found found him. Her, doesn't matter. He's acting like a woman now. And voila, this is how I became Duchess of Sussex. This is me. Instead of saying I've been victimized, I've been the the bimbo, I have been this, I've been that. This is how Meghan could have been true to us and true to herself too. But that didn't happen. That's why a lot of these celebrities that start these things, quote, they can't keep up. They bail, like Meghan Markle and effing. Oh my god, I guess she's doing it now, quote unquote. Joe Rogan told his guest, but Prince Harry was doing one for a while, but Bruce Springsteen and Obama was doing one for a while. Terrible, end quote. I mean, Meghan's one is the most terrible. Whichever way you look at it, is the worst thing that happened to really Spotify ever. Guys, thank you so much for joining in. New here, consider this, and I will see you in the next video. Have a wonderful day.